So some of these look like they're already adjusted. We're going to use our spanner wrenches. There's a nice little spot for your 1/2-inch torque wrench. And we're going to torque this lock ring into spec. This bottom one's already done. Looks like all of them are, everywhere the red tape is. If you couldn't see it in the video, it says tightened at specified torque. I did measurement A already from our instructions, and it seems from the factory they've already set that for us. So we're gonna keep moving on. After tightening this ring, we'll make our next measurements and keep moving. Okay, seems like it wants to slide a lot, so I'm just gonna get them as tight as I possibly can. And then once we have everything on the car, we'll hook everything up again and try and get these torqued down to spec properly. So let's move on. Let's double check some more measurements here. So So we want to measure B now, which is basically going to be the bottom of this, now that I've got it tightened all the way down to the bottom of this bottom locking ring. And we are looking at measurement of 1.6 inches or 40 millimeters. I'm using my little Stanley tape measure for this since it has centimeters on it as well. So at 40 millimeters, we should be at 4 centimeters, and we are needing to go up a little bit. It matches with this. 3.9 centimeters there, 3.9 centimeters there. So that measurement is also pretty close to what it's saying here. These are adjusting. This is adjusting your actual shock length. If you can see inside here. Threading that up and down is just going to extend the body of the shock assembly. So I'm happy with that. That was right on spec. So this is what I'll be adjusting on the car to get the proper ride height once everything's installed. Maybe I won't even adjust that, but we're basically in spec with what this reference sheet is saying in the instructions, so I'm gonna stick with it. Looks like we're matched up over here as well, so I can flip this. We can remove our tightened to specified torque tape. Okay, so let's gonna move on to measurement C. So this is 181 millimeters or 7.1 inches, and that is going to be from the center, the top mounting bolt, to the top of our shock cylinder. So tuck this back away again. And we're gonna see where we're at. So, top of the shock cylinder. to the center of this hole. It's looking like 18.2, which is right on. We're supposed to be at 181, which would be 18.1. It's plus or minus 20 millimeters, so 18.2 is within spec right there as well. We're gonna go with D, moving on. So bottom of our spring perch locking ring to that center hole. And we should be measuring about 4 1/4. Let's see if that's right. Yes, D is 108, 4.3. And we are at exactly that. So we've got one front shock already within the adjustment specs that the manual says to start with. Pop all that back out. So, one done. Let's throw that to the side for a second. All right. Okay, let's get ourselves set up. Get this little flip. So, let's start from the beginning again. So we've got A, which the spring is turned right at the edge there, so I'm gonna use the spring as my point here. And from there to the top of the collar should be 113 millimeters or 11.3 centimeters, 4.4 inches. And we are right there, right where we're supposed to be. Let me get a shot for reference. So we are right there, top of the shock body. We are at 11.3, around 4.4 inches. Okay, reference point B is going to be bottom of spring perch to the top of our locking ring for the shock body height. It looks like we're at 39 centimeters, or millimeters, sorry. Spec's supposed to be 40. 1.6 inches, looks like I'm at like 1.5. I will take that, since that's the measurement of our actual ride height, spring compared to where it's sitting on this shock body. So I'm okay with that. And if we have to make any more adjustments, we're gonna be doing that on the car. So moving on to C. This is where we're gonna go to the center hole, top mounting bolts. So again, from the top of the shock cylinder to the center hole, where we have about 7.2 inches, or 18.3 centimeters, which that's right where we want to be, as 181 millimeters is spec, plus or minus 20 millimeters, and 7.1 inches plus or minus 0.8 inches. So looking good there. Moving on to the last measurement for the front struts, and we've got D at 108 millimeters or 4.3 inches. That is going to be bottom of the spring perch to the center of the hole again. And we're at 4.4 inches, it looks like. 10.8 centimeters, which is spot on at our 108 millimeter spec. So that guy's looking good. I'm going to put this boot back on. And we can move on to our rears. Okay, we'll get those tightened down on the car. Okay, rear shock. Again, red tape indicating that this ring is torqued to spec. Come on, you dirty, dirty sticker. Oh yeah. There we go. Get some more of this. Sticky stuff off of there. Cool. So, this is torque to spec. These guys will have to get tightened down when we adjust ride height. Let's see how set up we were from the factory. So rears, kind of the same measurements. So we're gonna go from here to the top of our shock body. I've got about 13. And spec is 12.8. Should be at 5 inches. Seems a little off. It's only off because of my measurement. Okay, so we're gonna measure this guy. Again, I'm gonna use my spring as kind of my holding point for my tape measure, right where it's level at the top of the shock body. And we've got 5 inches, 12.8 titties. Okay. Next is going to be bottom to this. And with that, we are about 4.8, 4.9, which is right on. Then we're going to do C. So now we're going to be going to our center of this from the same points. So we're going to take our reference point on the spring here that matches up with the kind of taking a guesstimate here because of the way this is lined up. I just don't feel like taking the spring all the way off for this. And so far it's measured out pretty freaking rad, so I'm gonna say that we're spot on again, and that these things are pretty nicely set up straight from the factory. So we should be at 25.7, and it looks like we are pretty much right there. That's also 10.1 inches, which is putting us right there. So last one, bottom of the spring perch locking ring to the center hole again. This one's going to be a little bit easier to get in there. So from there to there, we're sitting at about an even 7 inches, which is 17.8, and that is it. D is supposed to be 17.7 and 7 inches. So from the factory, looks like at least this rear shock was already set to the specs in the manual. Just move that there for now. All right, let's double check our specs on this rear shock. See if we're right in there. Move the boot out of the way again. Go from there to there. We've got our first 5 inches or 128 millimeters right on. Bottom of our spring perch locking ring to the top of this locking ring. And we've got 4.7, 4.8. So that's our 48 millimeters, 1.9 inches, looking real good there. Now let's do our center hole to center hole of our mounting bolts. Again, right on, we're at 25.7, 10 inches. Bottom of this to our center hole again. And we are at 7 inches, 177 millimeters. Another great setup shock from the factory. Very happy I don't have to do much adjustments there, and these things are basically ready to pop in. This lovely little boot all the way up there. OCD's not going to let this stay. There we go. Pop that out. Roll that down. Boom. Rear shocks set up. Okay, just talking about how to adjust the ride height right there. All right, gives a couple reference points for after we're installed to double check ride height. Of course, at that point, I can adjust it wherever I want. If I want to slam it, which I'm not going to do, or if I'm going to leave it as is. Camber, everything else, all that stuff's going to be done once we're on the car. So I'm going to say we're ready. Let's do it.